we're gonna be looking at the PS4. You're gonna ask, well, why would you even take apart the PS4? You're not gonna get that much at it out of returns to GameStop or things like that. And with the new generation consoles coming out, it's just old now and you don't want it to just die on you. What I'm gonna do is clean this PS4 up and see exactly how dirty it actually is, and we'll see what we can find. The main reason you really wanna get it clean though is if it were to break, then you're not gonna get parts. Because right now, due to the virus, computer parts, and even repairing parts, you can't really even get them anywhere right now because they're just out of stock everywhere. So the only way to actually repair a PS4 is if you had somebody else's PS4 that was already damaged and then possibly repair something. I'm just gonna hop into this now and we'll get this tore down. I'll show you any major things that pop up and we'll get it cleaned up. Ooh, some nice dirt right there. And this PS4 is the original PS4 that released with the Destiny package. And yes, doing this does void your warranty, but obviously if you're like this PS4 owner, you've had it quite a while and it's not gonna be under warranty. And taking apart a PS4 is actually pretty easy. You do have the Torx security screws holding just about everything in. The only thing that's pretty easily accessible by anybody is if you want to upgrade the hard drives to different sizes or possibly an SSD. Oh, okay, we already got some dust bunnies. Look at that. So right off the bat there, that's the top. A little dust built in everywhere. And that right there is gonna be your fan, and that's what you want to get cleaned out because when your fan works harder, the PS4 gets louder, then you're gonna notice it, and then it's gonna get, the fan itself will get wore out because it's actually carrying a lot more weight now, all that extra dust will mess up with the bearings and eventually it'll get screeching and that's not enjoyable when you're trying to play some Call of Duty and yell at some noobs. All right, we'll get the power supply out. Checking in there, you could also have buildup because obviously this is the exhaust, which you kind of don't want to get into this too much because again, there are capacitors in there that can shock you and are not that fun to deal with when they do. And that's that. That's the CD drive for you. Oftentimes these rollers right here will kind of be wore out or go bad if you play with discs a lot. And then there's also like a connector piece between these gray rollers here that sometimes disconnect, but it looks like everything is in there as there's no rattling either. And then, but if there were, you can easily just remove these plates here and then you could gain access to all that. But besides that, there's not too much dirt in this, as this compartment itself is a closed off section from everything. So there's just a little micro dust in there, but nothing too major. I could clean out the fan here, but it is definitely gonna get hard to clean everything out as it is caked on pretty good. Being caked up as that is, I'll need access to the heatsink as well, because again, once it hits there, it's gonna wanna blow towards the back, which then those fins are gonna start collecting it just as the fans did. It's so caked on so much that you could see actually the air streams for all the dust and how it flows around everything. That is definitely another dust bunny. All right, now this comes off. All right, and then under here, you have to kind of look at this too when you're taking it apart, is you have these thermal pads right here, and those actually go onto these modules here. So just be careful when cleaning up around here, as you do need those if you do not have those to be replaced. So you're gonna wanna lift up and then pull back towards you. Again, you don't wanna go too hard on this, even around metal bits. You just kinda wanna dab at it, get all the dust off. And at this point too, it would be good to actually check the IOs and the USBs in the front and everything in the back. So that way you can see if there's any dust in there, which at that point you could get something like a toothpick again, not prying too hard, or Q-tips and you could just dab them in there and get those things cleaned up. So that way that you know your connections are clean and are actually working as they should. Because oftentimes, even like cell phones, that's why some of your ports may not work, because you will have pocket lint or again, dust buildup just in there, and your cable won't actually be able to go all the way in to actually make contact. All right, so all that's left now after taking all that out is just the fan and the metal compartment here. So as you see, there's not too many parts that actually make up the PS4. You got your fan, you got some metal cages, you have the motherboard, your hard drive, and then the CD drive. There's nothing too crazy, well, and the power supply. It looks like there's just a couple of Phillips head screws on the bottom here. So of course you wouldn't be able to get to these specifically unless you took out everything that I have, including the motherboard, to this point. Now, this should be the heat sink. And there it is. The heat sink is clogged like crazy. Wherever this is blocked off, that's your cooling efficiency. So right now, you're only cooling this PS4 half of what it used to be. So that's why you're getting in here, because these things are really clogged. So that is what was on there, and then some. And with just that one little wipe, it's basically clean. You could most likely see all the way through it. And again, you could just get this dust, a can of air, spray it into it, and get it out that way. But I'm inside, I don't really want to do that. So that's why I'm collecting everything as much as I can at first. Little tip too is you could get a traveling toothbrush, and you could just get it in these fins, and it's a good way to get that cleaned out. But we're still not done. We got the fan, thing that does everything. You don't want to just get to that bottom piece, get the can of air, and spray it in there. You saw how blocked that thing was. If it was already halfway blocked, how is that going to pass through these fins? You're not going to clean it. You'll see some things fly out the back, most likely because the air is hitting the power supply, and then the power supply is losing debris. But if you take all that dust in that fan, it's just going to hit this, clog it up even more. The fan might look nice, but then you're going to overheat because it's got nowhere to go. Do not do any air spray through the sides, through the back, blow back towards the front. It's going to hit those fans and it will clog it up. Let me give you an example real quick. And I'll spray it in like you would if you took off the bottom of the case and you got to the fan access. This is what it would look like. The fan got it a lot cleaner. But what happened? All that just sprayed out. And you saw how clogged this intake was. Now imagine trying to fit that through those holes. It doesn't go. It does not go through. It stays right on top, and it will stay there if you spray it that way. Because if it's clogged that bad, this is gonna be clogged no matter what. So that's why you take everything apart, you clean it fine, and now I gotta clean all this up. If you ever experienced cockroaches or any kind of small bugs in your house, they like warm places, as you probably found out when trying to deal with them. Guess what a PS4 does when it gets hot? So it's like a hotel for cockroaches. So same thing, if it gets even warmer, they're gonna wanna go to the warmest place possible. So where's that? Your PS4. So get it cleaned. All right, so now I'm getting to the fan. So with here, now you have access to everything. You could get to the sides. One of the nicer things to do would be to get a Q-tip and just kind of wedge it in there and get as much dust as you can out. Just gonna work at it. You can see through it for the most part. Everything is pretty much dust free. So I'm gonna start putting this thing back together and we'll just keep on going. There we go. It's like a puzzle. So you're not forcing anything. It's just trying to find it to sit in there nice so it's not moving around and it feels like it's meant to be there. check the fan wire. There's metal tabs on the top that you just push down, and that releases a locking mechanism. You shove the cable in, you lift up. Line it up, and you're just gonna lower it straight down, and then it just pops into place. But for the most part, I just learned all this from doing things myself. For one of my birthdays, my parents went to a donation center, and they bought up like all these old phones and old things that just had screws everywhere. And they bought it for me for my birthday. And I just went out to the front porch. They gave me a screwdriver and said, "Here you go." I said, "Oh boy." So I started taking everything apart. I was like, okay, how does this work? How does that work? The only thing I had to take apart before that was all of their things that they had. So when they wanted to go use something, it wasn't working anymore because it was already taken apart. And also viruses back in the late 90s were very easy to get to, especially when LimeWire was around, Napster, all that kind of stuff. I got them a lot with Windows XP. So I kind of learned things on my own to fix those issues because I was, I don't know, 7, 8, 9. So I didn't have money to just go up to the store and say, "Hey, fix this. My dad's gonna get home anytime now. This needs to be fixed before he gets home." Nope, it was just, "Hey, I need to get this fixed." And as a kid, you're freaking out because it's like, I don't want anybody to know. And then that's why I got into computers too, because I wanted to hide things from my dad because I broke things. But in essence of breaking them, I learned everything that there was to do with them and to fix them. Ooh, I can feel a nice little breeze coming out the back too. Like, I feel it. So this thing is definitely now for sure cooling as it should and more efficiently. Now you're gonna be gaming for a few more years rather than a couple more based on how your system used to be with all the dust. That's pretty much it. Console works, it's cool, I can feel the breeze and I like it. And again, I find this stuff super fun to do. And if you're ever interested, you could always learn to do this yourself. It doesn't take that much, and I'll see you next time.